Welcome to Peppershock Media's Marketing Expedition podcast, keeping you up to date with the latest in marketing and advertising. Now here's your host, Rhea Allen.
Podcasting 101, just some basics. If you've ever thought about creating a podcast, we can help you do that. Some pointers we're going to keep in mind, what it takes to create a podcast and why it's important to do that. So we're going to go through some of those things. I'll give you some tips and pointers and some tools you can use, some ways to go about it and just get it going and get it done, right? Maybe it's something that's been on your mind and you're just like, I got to do this. I got to make it happen. I'm going to, make it so. So what do you need to do? What is podcasting? Why should it matter to you? Maybe it's something new to you that you haven't been a part of yet. But I highly encourage you to download podcasts and listen to them so you can get an idea of what people do and how people do it. But basically, it's a digital audio file made available on the internet for downloading to a computer or a mobile device. And then it's typically available in a series, a whole bunch of different ones that are going to go on and on and on. And now recently, we've started launching them every Thursday. And there's a reason for why we would do that because of traffic and when people want to listen to them and being consistent and when you can do that as well. So podcasting can help increase traffic. It can help increase awareness to you. It can help build more personal relationships with clients. I've interviewed people that I want to seek out and learn more about, and maybe even potentially think that we could even work with them as a client. And also our clients that we do have, I also put them on the podcast as well. So you can also improve your public speaking skills, something I'm always working on to be able to continue to enhance what I'm doing and how I'm doing it and sharing what I know. So right now, podcasts are significantly increasing, significantly. So right now there are more than 850,000 active podcasts and more than 30 million podcast episodes. 51% of the U.S. population has listened to a podcast. So that means over half of us in the U.S. population have actually listened to a podcast. So that means 49% of you need to understand and experience what podcasts are. So yeah, there's a lot of active podcasts going on. This graphic and these stats are getting updated constantly. And now more than ever too, I think during the pandemic when we first started, I thought, oh no, people aren't going to listen to the podcast as much because we're no longer commuting to work. And that's what I really thought that people did, is that they listened while they were commuting. So we always made our podcasts about 20 to 30 minutes long, the average commute time. But the case is that more and more people are listening to podcasts more than ever, even now. So 32% listen to podcasts monthly. And 25 to 34-year-olds are the most likely to listen to these podcasts. Although I would say that there are definitely unique niches of people who are listening and various different languages, various different topics, content, those types of things. So just keep in mind that podcasts can be out there for anyone. There are a million different topics of things that you can listen to, subscribe to, whatever you're into, whether it's health, whether it's, marketing like this, whether it's, learning about leadership or, I listen to a lot of different podcasts too, just to stay in tune with the latest trends and, tactics and techniques of things that are going, whether it's parenting or, whatever, it just doesn't matter. I mean, there's football, there's sports podcasts, there's all kinds out there. There's definitely something out there for someone that maybe is new to this or hasn't figured out how to do it yet. And we'll go over that. So more statistics, 80% of listeners listen to the entire podcast. Isn't that awesome? Now, podcast users listen to an average of 7 new podcasts a week. This could be you, give or take. People listen to them while they're working out. They listen to them, now when we're home in front of the computer, we always keep saying double down on digital because that's where everyone is at right now. And so you can definitely, figure out that there are a lot of podcasts out there. So 94% of the listeners are active on other social media websites as well, compared to 84% of the population. So, whoops, I went through too fast. Smartphones are the #1 medium for podcast consumption. And now with smart TVs and, connected automobiles, there's a lot of different ways to get through to listen to a podcast. All right, so steps to making a podcast. We want to first choose our niche for our podcast. Like us, we have marketing expedition. We're going on a journey, right? So then number 2, select a catchy name and add your logo along with some cool design. So thinking about the name, you want function, you want making sure that, you know, it's not going to spell out something funny when you truncate it all together, when you do a hashtag. You want to be sure to make sure that what you're using is not something else that somebody else has already used. You want to make sure that, you know, the podcast is your own, right? It's authentic to you. And you also then have to come up with the different platforms that there are out there. There's all kinds of different ones. And every time there's always something that comes up that's new, right? A new different platform. There's Anchor, there's, you know, we use SoundCloud. And now too, to distribute your podcast, SoundCloud's a hub for us, but it goes out to iTunes and Spotify and Pandora. And just recently, Amazon is now getting their platform up and running and going too. And so just thinking about, you know, what you can do, how you can get it out there, the strategy that you want to take, research and compare and contrast. There's a lot of different types and tools. So, you know, like I said, we use SoundCloud. That's the one we've stuck with, and it gives us a lot of analytics and understanding. It's kind of the hub that gets out to everybody else, and it shares, you know, what and where the listens are, the downloads, or how many times people have listened to the podcast. And so those are the tools that you can use, and we can talk more about those as well. And if you have questions, of course, always feel free to reach out to me, and we can always chat about what platform might be right for you. Now, the other thing to think about is creating a script, or creating at least questions you want to do if you're going to interview somebody, or if it's just a podcast with just you. You know, if it's going to be something that you're going to have endorsements or sponsor messages, or if you're going to have, you know, multiple guests on the show, if it's going to be a panel discussion, if you're going to record it in a studio, or if you're going to record it remotely, which seems to be what people are doing a lot more now, is recording remotely. And so we have nailed down utilizing Zoom to use our recording platform. There's several others out there. Again, research what works for you, what the price point is. Zoom is relatively inexpensive to do. You know, if you're new at this, I think you can get one subscription for, you know, less than $20 a month. Depending on if you do it annual or if you do it monthly. But Zoom, you know, you can have the other person call in, and if you're only recording audio, then you only need to use audio. Or if you're wanting to do a podcast with video too and putting it out there on YouTube, people do that a lot more often. We're doing that as well. Just having another platform to get your information out there, get your message spread, because there's just so many places to put your podcast now. We want to be on all of them so that way people can have access to it and be able to, you know, utilize their favorite platform. I've just been stuck with iTunes forever. And so on my phone, that's what I have, all my podcasts that automatically download and ping me on the ones that I want to be notified that a new podcast has been launched. And so then I will listen to it. Maybe I can come back to it. Sometimes I can download them if I know that I'm going to be on an airplane and I don't have internet access. I can download the ones that I want to listen to, or if I have a long road trip, like we went, we drove from Alaska down through Canada back into Washington and then Idaho, and there's a lot of stretches in Canada that have no internet access, and so podcasts were wonderful to listen to and be able to, you know, glean a few of them all at once, because I was behind on a couple of ones that I wanted to listen to, and you know, hours of driving, it really does help. And then it just can autoplay, especially if you have a connected car that can connect to your phone, that you've already got them downloaded on your phone, you can do that. But if we're ready to, you know, go into the idea of recording a podcast, the best piece of advice I can give you is to record it. Get it done. Do it. If you're using Zoom to record with, you know, if you want to have the different tools and microphones and all of the extra accessories, those are also very helpful. But as you're new at this, if you want to just do it, you can just use Zoom and use your laptop or your computer and just make it happen, right? So that's an idea for you. Just get it done, see what you sound like, see what you like, what you don't like, and uncover. And by the way, we're our own worst critics. I firmly believe that we, have a tendency to be harder on ourselves than other people would be on us. So you have to overcome that fear, get comfortable with the uncomfortable, and just do it. Just get it done. And then it's time to edit, right? Then you can go through the various different programs. I mean, I think a lot of systems now just come with the basic audio editing tools that you can use and plug it in there. And there's tutorials, all kinds of how-tos and what you can do to do that. Of course, we use professional tools because we are a studio and we have that at our fingertips. And if you are reluctant to want to figure out how to edit it, that's where we can come in and help you do that if you so desire. Even if you want us to help get you set up on the right tools and show you how to use some tools, we can do that and help you go through that process. If you've never done any audio editing before in your life, we can help you, walk you through it, give you some programs to do it. Even when the free ones that come on your garbage band or whatever audio program you have, we can help you with that. And there's lots of online tools. There are apps, especially if you're on your phone. There's apps you can use now. There's an app for that, right? There's an app for everything. And so some of these platforms have the ability and capability. It's a self-serve all-in-one you can use and do. So thinking about the content, right? Sometimes that can be a hang up for people before they actually start doing their podcast. So if you are like, well, Ray, I want to do a podcast, but what would I talk about? What would I do? Who would I interview? Who would I, what kind of message would I want people to have? And so I would say if you are, speaking on what you're passionate about, what you're an expert in, what you know most about, and even if you don't know about something entirely, that's where you can interview people and have them express what they know and ask them questions, and having those questions prepared in advance if you can. If not, that's okay. Sometimes it's just a candid conversation, and you can use that as your podcast, as having a conversation. Utilizing relevant and engaging stories. People love stories, right? I love to tell stories, and I love to hear stories, and I love it when our people we are interviewing tell us a story, and it engages us. It keeps us wanting to listen to more, and we want to hear more about it, and we want to check out these people that we're listening to on the podcast. And then you can also, like I said, invite your guests to partake in their podcast, get them to help spread the podcast, and, give the feedback that you need in order to help make your podcast better and grow over time. I can remember when we very first started, versus now, and it takes time to build and grow and do more. And we, have done quite a few now, and we've had some amazing people on our show. One I'm really particularly proud of that we just did, and we'll launch it out here pretty soon. Some big names are coming, some best-selling authors. It just takes time to build up to the right audience that you want to interview and talk to, and just not being afraid to ask, right? Putting it out there. Hey, would you like to be on my podcast? And, being able to get the right people. And I also have followed now podcast guesting, the Guest Lab, Internet and Profit Lab. There's lots of tools out there for people who do podcast guesting as a job. They help you line up and get on certain podcasts, or vice versa. They help you get your podcast out. So there's lots of agencies that can help, particularly with just podcasting and getting your message out there, or getting you listed on podcasts. I've been able to work with them and have guests on our show that they recommended to me as being a good guest on our show. And so those are some people that you can look to help you do that as a specific business, where they have created this business to make those happen for you, make those moments happen. There's also websites out there that you can list yourself if you want to be a podcast guest, Or if you're a podcaster and you want to find podcast guests, it's kind of like a matchmaker for podcasts, right? And so there are different tools that you can use to make that happen, and be able to put that out in the world and say, okay, these are the people that I want to find, and these are the types of people that I want to interview. Or, hey, this is the type of person I am and the podcast that I have. Now let's make that happen for us to be able to do that. So anyway, those are some ideas for you on how to get that done. So let's see, I'm thinking now, we'll keep going here. So thinking about, okay, now you've got your podcast created, you've made this, you maybe have done some interviews, you've done an introduction to who you are, maybe you're getting some sponsors, some endorsements along the way, some affiliate links along the way that you can put in your show notes. Now what? What do we want to do? We want to establish the platforms to boost awareness. We want to invite guests to bring on into a new market. Podcast listeners will be more inclined to follow companies and brands on social media. And 69% of podcast listeners agree that podcasts help in generating awareness for new products and services. So this is a great way to get your brand and build your name and get your messaging out there, whether it's your personal brand or the company brand. It's for you to be able to share who you are, share what you know, and understand. And if you're an author, or if you're, a content producer, if you are, an industry expert, if you're a lawyer, a CPA, or whatever the case might be, whoever your niche and whoever you can serve will become, that is who you can think about and surround, and what you can do to help engage with them and boost that for you, to present yourself as an expert, to present yourself as somebody that they can know, like, and trust, right? We do business with those that we know, like, and trust. And if they're listening to your podcast, or they're listening to one of the people that you're interviewing on your podcast, chances are they're going to follow them or like them or engage with them or engage with you more often because of that. And of course, you always want to get what I call the 5 R's: reviews, recommendations, referrals, rankings, and then rewards. You want to make sure that you're, rewarding those who give you any of those R's that we're talking about. If somebody gives you a review, it's awesome. You want to give them that, that plug, or that moment of saying, yes, they did something awesome for me. Now I want to, return the favor for them. And I want to, give some shout outs or give some love to them, mention them in a podcast moving forward, read the review that they gave you, and do that. And those are some things that we're implementing in our podcast strategy. Is if you give us a review, then I want to read that and I want to share that with the world. Ideally, if it's a good review, right? You always want to, filter that. But I think it's definitely something to think about, is how can people hear more about it? And if you can shout out and tag people and hashtag, using hashtags in your show notes and being able to have it searchable, you can do that as well. And then sharing it out on social media. We do little teasers on Instagram to be able to share where we are, a little clip, just a little teaser of what the podcast is about and what we're trying to indicate, and then people can go and listen to it and subscribe to the podcast. So those little teasers, you can do less than 60 seconds and it'll stay in the Instagram feed, or it'll go to Instagram TV, depending on if it's longer. And if you wanted to post the whole thing, you could. That'd just be another way for people to then be able to, recognize who you are and what you're doing. The other thing too is, like, if you're going to post it out there with social media, you want people to be able to have a link that's clickable to get them where they need to go. And so we, have a landing page on our website. And again, it's peppershock.com/podcasts. And that is the page where people can go to then go see their favorite subscription, right? If they want SoundCloud or any of those others that I mentioned before. So thinking about having a landing page on your website where you house your podcast, it drives traffic to your website, which is always good for the Google machine or the SEO or the bots, right? They want to see traffic happening on your website. And so if you're constantly updating new content on your site, that's good for your website. And then it also then can drive traffic directly from your site to then SoundCloud or any any of those tools that they're going to, or iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio or any of those types of things. The thing I can recommend, though, like I was saying before, is just record yourself. Record one, even if you have to just do it as a voice memo. Maybe you're not even going to use it right away. Maybe you're going to use it to be able to listen to yourself and what you say and how you say it, and that can be a tool for you to practice. And then, you know, taking that to the tools that you need to use. Obviously, there's a lot of tools out there. You know, you want to sound good. You want to have a decent microphone when you're doing it. Eventually, it'll be good to do that. You know, having headphones and listening to yourself so you can make sure that your audio is coming through, that you're not muted. You know, I utilize the microphone. You know, you can just order these online from B&H Photo or anything like that. And you can hear my audio when I'm getting closer, but it's a blue mic, you know, making sure that you're not muted, keeping it on the right settings, all of those types of things. But yeah, so those are the ideas of getting your okay, so platforms. We talked about different platforms. So we've got, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, podcasts, There's just different apps out there. Just thinking through where you need to go and how you can get there. So some other tips to think about, be sure to post your podcast at the most opportune time. Like I said, we were going to talk a little bit more of this, different days of the week, you know, depending on what it is that you're doing. You know, if you do it like percentage of downloads by day of the week with a Monday release. So if you release it on Monday, you know, you're going to get the most the first day, and then the next day, and the next day. I believe that if you release at the beginning of the week, that's when a lot of people are trying to catch up from the weekend. Maybe they got a ton of emails through the weekend. Maybe they need to wait off a little bit before they can get to a podcast. And so we chose Thursday as a release day because I felt like it's leading into the weekend. And so, you know, when people want to listen to podcasts, it's something that they're doing if they're mowing the yard or if they're doing cleaning or whatever. And so far, so good. It's been working for us to do Thursdays is that, and just from research, and it also kind of depends on your industry and who your audience that you serve, you know, if they're younger demographic, older demographic, thinking about who it is that you're serving, who you want to reach, if they're busy business professionals or if they're, you know, working from home moms, right? I mean, there's just going to be different days of the week that's going to work for you. So the best thing you can do is test it and see how many listens you get. And then you can launch it, you know, on different days and kind of uncover what's working best for you, what iteration of that works for you and why. Establishing your followers, and then you can, once you do that and you get enough followers, then people will be interested in sponsoring your show and in doing endorsements and those types of things, which we are in process of doing that, which is pretty exciting for us to be able to do that and have enough listeners where people would be interested in doing that, right? So those are some things to do. And we've got, you know, endorsements kind of naturally go in the show as you're talking and you can endorse a product or service, whereas commercials play, you know, throughout or beginning or the end, and they're pre-produced and, you know, scripted and edited and, you know, dialed in all nice and neat. So there's just different ways to do that. And just, you know, continuing to have a compelling intro to keep listeners engaged. We want to catch them right off the bat and make sure that they want to stay listening throughout. And then, you know, thinking about your website, like we talked about a landing page, what that would look like, and how you can capture their attention there. Just make it easy for people to click on it and get to where they need to go in order to download to their specific platform that they want to listen on. And if you've never listened on any of the platforms, you can always test it out and see which one you like best and see which one you want to use moving forward. There's so many of them out there now that you can find the ones that you like. So yeah, keeping podcasts. So podcasting in action, you know, the Marketing Expedition podcast that we do, I've got, you know, it was kind of fun. We did a pod swap or a swap cast, whichever way you want to call it. You can swap it around where you interview one of the hosts of another show and then they interview you as a host of their show. So a pod swap or swapcast. And so those are kind of fun because then you can cross promote each other, right? And make it so that we can both, you know, do this together, right? And so anyway, those are some things. And also people want to hear your story. So this is one about me that I shared my story and kind of who I am and where I came from and what I did and how I got to where I am now and kind of the path that I took and the journey that we have, and, my marketing expedition, if you will. And so those are some things that people want to listen to in your stream as well, that they can go back and listen to. So yeah, and the other thing too, people understand, you can make content evergreen, meaning it's got longer shelf life. It can stay relevant for a long period of time, or you can make it timely and informational at that time. But people who are listening to podcasts understand that it is, recorded in a moment in time, right, at that time. So you can then recognize and realize, okay, for those of you watching this or listening to this later, this will be something that it was happening in that moment in time. Like, for example, this webinar is happening in the moment in time when we're going through a pandemic, right? And I'm hoping that when somebody listens to this later in the replay, they'll recognize that that's happening. So those are some things about, kind of content and thinking about, tips that can be useful to you. And, keeping connections and the people that you've interviewed, keeping those people connected with you is also something that has been beneficial in the long run, because I've interviewed some amazing people, and now, like a year later, talking to them again and just kind of checking in and see how they're doing. And it also kind of keeps us top of mind for them too, for when we're doing business, especially if we're, interviewing clients that we worked with in the past, if we just did a one-off project with them, or if we've done some ongoing work, but it's like hit and miss or periodic work, I guess I should say. It's just a nice way to stay in front of them. It's when somebody asks you to be on their podcast, it's flattering, right? It's nice to be asked to be on the podcast. And so sometimes that's a nice little way to break through and do some new business development, is by asking somebody to be on your podcast, which is pretty cool to do, and certainly something that we can share. But now it's your turn to step up to the microphone. That's my challenge to you. If you're watching this and you've said, man, I really want to do this, but I just haven't had either the time or the talent or the treasure to make it happen, right? Time, because time is everything, right? Everyone has to make time to do stuff. Talent, maybe I just don't know how to do it. I don't know the first step to do it. I don't know what to take. And there's so many different tools and tactics out there. What can I do? Where can I go? What's going to be the best thing for me? And that's where we can help along the way. And I would encourage you, if you do want, assistance in making that happen, you can always book 15 minutes with me for free, of course. And we can just see a direction and a path that we can do to help if you need it. I think it's peppershock.com/book-Ray. is my booking app, where you can book 15 minutes virtually with me, and I'm happy to help you with all of these questions that you may have. Meanwhile, if you do have questions, please let us know. I know I've got a few of you watching on the Facebook Live that's happening in this time. And then, of course, if you're watching the replay, feel free to reach out to me, send me a message. You can hit me up on all kinds of different platforms, I'm sure. But yeah, really, send me a direct message and let's connect. Let's see how we can help you take that step to make the podcast happen for you. And what is it that you're going to need to do in order to make that happen? What equipment do you need? What tools do you need? How can we make it happen? Where can you go to get it distributed? And, Brian at our office, he is great with helping get things submitted to different various platforms, and he's been through the process. We've used a number of different tools throughout this time period that we've been podcasting, and we've kind of found some that work and some that maybe not so much, and can uncover that for you and share those things with you as you decide on what platforms to make and take and do. Also want to mention, we are going through the Marketing Expedition Masterclass. This is going to be happening as soon as we fill up the classes. We'll do more again, but always you can go to the marketingexpedition.com/masterclass, and we can sign you up. We will only take up to 10 people at a time in the masterclass, and it is a 7-week program. We have to always schedule around holidays, but generally the first 3 weeks we are going 90 minutes at a time once a week, and then after that it's bi-weekly for an hour. We check in, we do a lot of different things in this masterclass to help you. If you need help developing your messaging, your strategy, your plan, your budget, all of these things, and we will address some podcasting in the masterclass as well, along with some social media and tactics and different things that you can take. And that is what we can do for today. So thank you so much, and we will see you next time. And until then, enjoy the journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Find more online at peppershock.com. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.